Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be doing a super long overdue book haul that I've been putting off for so long. My used books have been stacking up a lot, so much so that I decided when I was doing my last haul I was going to put a few of my used ones aside to do a nice big collective used book haul. And I have so many books here today, probably over 30 of them. And I've just been putting it off because I don't know about you if you make videos. I don't love doing book hauls just because they require so much editing. And before I forget, I got a new shelf, and so I'm currently tinkering with where I'm placing everything. So I'm not currently set on how I have it laid out yet, other than my Harry Potter, so that's why I have my pops there. So if you're wondering why I'm in a new place, that's why. One of the main reasons I decided to put my used books aside to do their own separate haul is that I love them and I don't think they get enough love here on BookTube. Everyone is always talking about new releases, and with used books you're not typically always going to find new releases, but I love digging and looking and finding gems. And also with used books, I don't know as much about them as I do like the books I buy new. So the first book I have here is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is a very popular dystopian trilogy. The story follows a boy who lives in a community in which they can all hear one another's thoughts, and then everything kind of gets shaken up when he either meets a girl, sees a girl, because in his community there are no girls. This reminds me of The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, which I didn't love, but that was like old classic dystopian and I was really young when I read it. I'm interested to see my thoughts on the book and the movie that is coming out, I think, sometime next year. I found the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman, that including The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. Now, I actually read The Golden Compass years ago when I was super young. I didn't entirely love it. I think I was terrified of it, and that's why I wasn't so keen on the books. The new book, The Book of Dust, is coming out, and I really feel like this is a series that I very much would enjoy now. The only things that I remember is that your spirit, your something manifests into an actual little demon creature. I'm not describing this well. It's been so many years since I've read it. And then there are people who are attempting to separate children from their little demon spirits. When I found these at the thrift store, I was so excited because I love these editions. They're so nice. And something that's really cool about them is that when the spines line up, they say His Dark Materials, which I like. The only thing that I wish was slightly different was that this book was actually called The Northern Lights, which it is originally called in the UK, and I don't know why they changed the name. It kind of bugs me when I grabbed The Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I think this is the original adult edition, and I just thought it was really cute, and I was really concerned about them because it's so small. I figured that the print would be tiny, but the print is the exact same size like it is in the regular copies. I'm interested in collecting the rest of these ones, and it's so cute. It's like a little pocket edition. My friend doesn't really care so much for Harry Potter. It was never a big thing when she was growing up, and so she's kind of let go of the Harry Potter stuff she has, and she found the Tales of Beedle the Bard, which I never read this as a kid, and I think it's because with the 3 little companion novels, I tried reading the original Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's basically a little encyclopedia of all the beasts, and I wanted a story, so I was super bored, and I think it kind of scared me off from the rest of the companion books, so I never had them. These next 3 were great little finds, and I got all 3 of them for $5.80. The first one I grabbed was Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk by Kathleen Rooney. The main reason why I got this is that it was one of the book of the month picks maybe 8 months ago, and I remember seeing a lot of positive feedback from that, and all I know is that it follows an older woman taking a walk in New York, reflecting upon her life. Ooh, I was most excited for The One by Kiera Cass. I read the selection and I own the Elite. And if you didn't know, the selection is the popular dystopian trilogy. It's Bachelor for Royals, and I love The Bachelor. It's a huge guilty pleasure of mine, and I really did enjoy the first one as a guilty pleasure read, so I'm excited to finish off the trilogy. And this was the last book I got in with my little $5 set of 3 books, and it is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. All I know is that this is a short story that is really well liked by people who like Gillian Flynn's work. When I was on vacation, I picked up 2 books for super cheap at I don't know if these books are used or if they're just reduced, but I grabbed This Song Will Save Your Life by Layla Sales. I believe this follows a teen girl who's being severely bullied in high school. I believe this has a mental health rep in it. I'm not entirely sure which one. Sorry about that, but yeah, no, it was $4 or $5, so figured why not. The next book I grabbed was The School for Good and Evil, The Last Ever After, which is book 3 in the School for Good and Evil series by Soman Chainini. I've been meaning to read this series for a while, and I don't own any other copies. This is a really popular middle grade series in which there are 2 schools, one school for good and one for evil, and our 2 main characters believe they should be in one of each schools and are actually swapped. And so I think that that's just such a cool premise. I really want to get to more middle grade, so I'm excited for this one. Okay, so next set of Value Village ones, I found These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. All I remember is that this is a YA young adult sci-fi series in which I believe it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet inspired, maybe? I found The Fate of the Tearling, which is the 3rd and final book in the Queen of the Tearling trilogy. I now have all 3 books, and I'm very excited to start this series because it leaves a lot of people divided. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm really interested in reading about a society set in the future, but it's actually regressed. I found The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a standalone that I believe is about like some sort of big race that happens in this town. It's fantasy. No girl has ever entered this competition until our main character enters, and she enters it because she needs to save her family's life. I grabbed The Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. I know absolutely nothing about this, as I do with most thrillers. This cover has always intrigued me. I just like that it's really dark with like the bright fonts. And so, yeah, I'm adding to my thriller collection. Who knows when I'll actually attempt reading them. And the last one I was most excited for was The Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is YA fantasy quartet that is heavily inspired by the Roman Empire, and it follows 2 main characters. I know that these are getting a cover change, and I'm excited for it because of what that means and just like the publishing industry. But I really am partial to these covers. I do really like them. When I was at the Value Village when getting these 5, there was actually a used bookstore like across the street, so of course I had to go in, and I found 2 new books that I'm really excited for. I don't know why I said new. I found More Than This by Patrick Ness. I know literally zero about this other than the fact that it's supposed to be super weird and our main male character is queer, and that is Own Voices because Patrick Ness is gay. I recently read The Rest of Us Just Live Here, and it's one of my favorites this year, so I'm really excited to get to more Patrick Ness. I just thought this edition was super cool. Like the door, like I thought that was just really cool. The other book I got in that store was Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerall. I don't remember anything about this. I believe it came out like February, March of this year. This was kind of a cover buy just because it's so pretty, and it was a lot cheaper because it was at a used bookstore. So I figured, why the hell not pick it up. The next 2 I picked up are both classics in their own right. I found The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is a very popular science fiction, and all I know is that it's supposed to be super ridiculous and kind of insane, but like in the best way possible. I also grabbed A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. Oh, Man, all my French has left me. This one, again, is a very popular children's classic, and I haven't actually read it, and I don't remember what it's about at all. I just have been wanting to read it ever since the trailer dropped for the movie that's coming out next year. I feel like this is one I should have gotten to years ago but never did, and so I'm excited to have a copy. Halfway through my haul, I noticed that like the angling was kind of off. Please forgive me. Still trying to figure this out, how I want everything to be set up. My next trip to the bookstore was super great. Really excited about it. And I managed to find like some really great books. The first one I found was The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a super popular book that came out 2-3 years ago. If you didn't already know, this follows a man who I think goes to Mars, and like some catastrophe happens in which he is left alone to survive on Mars because I think like his fellow astronauts thought he was dead or something. This is basically a survival story, but it's supposed to be hilarious, and it's just like a sci-fi book that I've been wanting to get to for a while. Speaking of sci-fi, I found Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Now, this is supposed to be kind of a cross-genre story. The only thing I really know about it is that there is a man who wakes up one day and realizes that he's living another life. He's not married to the same person he was. I don't think he has the same job. It's a sci-fi book with like a thriller twist element type of thing, and cross-genre stories I find always to be super interesting. And this was also a pretty new release, so I was very excited for this one. I managed to find Lips Touch 3 Times by Laini Taylor, edited by Jim DiBartolo, who, fun fact, is actually her husband. And this is 3 different stories, all centered around a first kiss. I love the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, and I'm very excited to read Strange the Dreamer. It's like one of my next reads. So yeah, this one I was really excited for. I don't love the cover so much, but yeah, this one is a really fun find. The next book I bought was The Mothers by Britt Bennett. I remember seeing this cover sometime early this year, and I was just really attracted to it. I think it's just such a pretty cover. And all I really know / remember about this one is that it's kind of a family saga type thing, and it really hits hard on what it's like to be Black living in America. The last find was just beyond exciting for me myself, and probably exciting to no one else, but it is City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare, and it is a hardcover edition, and I've been a huge fan of Cassandra Clare for such a long time, but both my copies of City of Bones and City of Ashes are in paperback, and they're my original copies, and so I have been on the hunt to find those 2 in hardcover. I'm very excited to be nearing the end just because I've been standing here for a while. And the last set of books I have, there are 10 books. I bought them all in the same day because Value Village was having a sale. The stack of 10 books here I got them all for $17. The first book I grabbed was The Orenda by Joseph Boyden, who's a very popular Canadian author, and he writes primarily about First Nations people. In this one, it is a historical fiction set around the time during the colonization period of both America and Canada, really brutal times. I believe it follows 3 different people with like different perspectives, like a young Métis girl, a boy who's attempting to like bring Christ to them, and then another person made a slight mistake. She's actually Iroquois. And I just like this last few sentences. It says, as these 3 souls dance one another through intricately woven acts of duplicity, small battles erupt into bigger wars, and a nation emerges from worlds in flux. Powerful and deeply moving, the Orenda traces a story of blood and hope, suspicion and trust, hatred and love. A saga nearly 400 years old, it is at its roots timeless and eternal. So, really excited about this one. I recently read his little short story called Wenjack, and I loved it. It was such a heartbreaking little story. The next one I grabbed was Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. This is the second book in the Expanse series, which I've been really interested in reading for a little while now. And when I was looking more into it after I bought the sequel, I found out that this is going to be a 9-book series, and I think like 5 of them are out right now. So this one I'm not going to be reading for a little while. I don't even own the first one, but I was excited to pick it up. It's the big, nice, floppy paperbacks that we all love. I tend to buy a lot of thrillers at the thrift store. Don't entirely know why, because I typically know nothing about thrillers, because I'm not the biggest thriller reader. I'm kind of a chicken. So I grabbed ICU by Claire McIntosh. I don't know anything about this other than this was her like highly anticipated next book because she wrote I Let You Go and a lot of people liked it. I also grabbed The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. This one, I believe there was a movie that came out about it. I believe it is what you would call a domestic thriller, I think. And this one was simultaneously really exciting to find, but also I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, and it is Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. Now, she wrote The Girl on the Train, and I didn't like it. In fact, I actually DNF'd it about halfway through, and I don't very often DNF books. And this follows this town in which a lot of women tend to die there, in like this specific little pond. I am interested to see how I feel, but I did kind of just pick it up because it's so newly released. I found City of Bones by Cassandra Clare in hardcover, so that completes my hardcovers of like the originals. I grabbed Swing Time by Zadie Smith. I honestly don't remember anything about this other than I've seen Zadie Smith's name a lot of places. Like her work tend to be pretty popular, and also I think a lot of people are split, like you either really like it or you really dislike it. Yeah, I recognized the cover, and because everything was so cheap that day, I was like, you know what, I'm getting it. The next book I grabbed was My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. This book follows a young woman, like I think in her mid-20s, who is kind of miserable at her job. She hates it, she hates her boss, and then she either quits or gets fired, and then starts up a like glamping company with her father. And then her old boss, the one she hates, comes to stay there. And it's kind of, I think, a story of just like self-reflection and self-growth and like misjudging people. I have never read a Sophie Kinsella book, mainly because a lot of her ones are young adult, and they're the kind of young adult books that I'm just not interested in reading. This one I'm more interested in than the rest of hers, and I think the cover is just such a cute little shade of green, so I decided why not. Okay, almost there. The next one I grabbed was Pygmy by Chuck Palahniuk. I know absolutely nothing about it other than the fact that Chuck Palahniuk is pretty well liked as an author. I think he writes weird stories, but he also wrote Fight Club. This last one was weird, but also really exciting because I'm always gonna add more stuff to my Harry Potter collection, and it is Harry Potter Film Wizardry. And it's just a lot of facts and stuff about how the movie was made, and I think there are like these stickers and stuff. I don't know. Oh, this is cool. It was a little bit of a different find than the typical thrift store one. I love used books. I think they're fantastic, and I really wish that they got more praise. I'd like to know, are there any books here that I've shown you that you have read, or even books that you are interested in reading? I'd love to know. I feel like I said I was excited for basically every book that I've shown you here today, but I found some pretty great stuff, and yeah, it's just a pretty good time. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.